Hello everyone, I'm Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Laura.
And we are the Sufficient Seven.
And today we are going to come back to our pitch and review because we finally read these books. We actually read them a little while ago, but we had a lot of schoolwork and stuff, so we weren't able to actually talk about them. We'll link our original pitch and review video here, so if you want to hear us pitch these books to each other, you can do that. We're going to give a brief description of these books in a non-spoilery way, and then pitch the books that we're going to have each other read for the next time.
I read Dear Daughter by Elizabeth Little. I really like this book. It's a mystery novel. The main character, her name is Janie Jenkins, is getting released from prison because a bunch of cases along with hers were overturned because of misuse or mishandling of the evidence. She was originally convicted 10 years prior for the murder of her mother. And so she gets out and she's on a mission to find out who actually killed her mother. It was really cool. It was really like mind-bending. I had no idea where it was gonna go. But I ended up really liking it. I listened to it on audiobook and I read maybe a few chapters from it. I actually think I liked listening to the audiobook better because the audio narrator did a really good job using different voices, and just the way she read Janie's voice was a lot better than I think I could have done, because Janie can be a real bitch. And she just, some of the things she says, you're like, oh my god, like this is awful. And sometimes it's funny, but most of the time, like I would never think or say something like that. So I think it was really well done. I would definitely recommend it. I'm glad I got around to reading it.
Yeah. I also like the fact that in there, it's not all just one linear storyline. Sometimes you have brief interruptions where they send out like a TMZ news report blast, or like they have part of a transcript from the original trial. So when they do that, they have, I think like the TMZ guy is different or whatever.
Yeah, they
like play this little like news like no, and I would get really confused when I was listening to it because I was like, what is that? It's like, oh, it's the audiobook.
I thought about Vampire Diaries in the middle of it. So they're in like their small town and one person's like, nothing ever happens here. And I was like, Mystic Falls. That was like a weird, just like, thought.
Where everything happens?
Yeah.
Small towns.
Exactly.
I would recommend it too, but I'd say not for young audiences.
No.
Because I think with a lot of mystery or thriller novels, you have more like gritty stuff. I would put this on par with like almost at Gone Girl level with the amount of inappropriate activity.
Yeah.
Not quite as, not as twisted as Gone Girl, but
no.
If you don't like swearing, then you probably don't read many crime mystery novels, but there's some of that in here.
I also kind of got like a Nancy Drew vibe to it, because Janie is not a detective. She's not a policewoman. She's just like, I wouldn't say an average girl, because she comes from a wealthy, or her mom was really wealthy. She like inherits all the money, so she's a kind of like an elite, I'd almost say, but she doesn't have any detective skills. So I kind of, if you play those Nancy Drew games, kind of the vibe I got, except not as sweet as Nancy Drew is. It's a lot of detective work I feel like I would end up doing, because I wouldn't know how to go about this stuff either.
Elizabeth had me read The Game of Love and Death by Martha Brockenbrough. I liked this book. It's the story, obviously, of the game of love and death, and their personifications of love and death, and we both talked about how it's interesting that death is female and love is male, because usually it's the opposite. So every so often they choose players. So usually it's like the famous romances that you hear about, like Helen of Troy and Paris, and Lancelot and Guinevere, and Romeo and Juliet. And now in the 1930s in Seattle, they've chosen two new players named Henry and Flora. So throughout the book, you have Henry and Flora's love story, and then you also have little scenes with love and death in them together, so you get some of their backstory, which I think we agreed we'd both like to see a little more of Love and Death's backstory, because I found them more interesting than Henry and Flora, just because there's so much to work with there, because they've been around forever. Overall, I liked the book, and I liked that Flora is trying to be an African-American pilot in the 30s, and Henry really loves music, so I liked both of the characters, and I liked their love story. It was good. So before we spoil specific things from these books, we're going to pitch each other the books for next time that we want each other to read. I'm finally going to have Elizabeth read The Glass Castle.
Very big surprise.
By Jeanette Walls, which I've said I'm going to do forever. This book has been living with you for a long time now.
I also borrowed it in high school from one of my friends.
Yeah.
I unfortunately never read it from her either. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but no, I liked it a lot when I read it. It's a memoir by Jeanette Walls, and it's about the story of her and her family as they kind of travel across the United States as she's growing up. And they have a really dysfunctional family because both of her parents are kind of con people and her dad is an alcoholic, and they never have like a real home. A lot of the time they're homeless, but she doesn't really think of it that way. So it's really interesting to see the dynamic between her family, and even when she's older and an established author in New York, her parents choose to be homeless. At the very beginning of the book, it's her as an adult and she sees her mom on the street in New York City, and then she dives back into the memoir of her childhood. But I really liked it, so I hope you like it as well.
We'll see. I feel like I've never been in the mood to read it because I'm not a big nonfiction reader. Same with memoir, but now that I'm taking a class on creative nonfiction, I found myself wanting to read more memoirs. So I finished Lit by Mary Carr, which I wouldn't say it sounds like super similar, but I feel like I'm getting the same vibe from both of them. So
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. The book that I'm choosing for Laura to read is The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. I read this a year ago now, actually, when we were in Italy studying abroad, and I really liked it. It's magical realism. It follows 3 different generations of a family, the Roux family. I think Laura will like this because there's some French in here. There's I forget some of their names, but there's the grandmother who you find out like about her love story, what happened to her children, and one of her children is like the mother of the main character of the story, and so you learn about the mother's love life and how she had the main character. And so the main character is Ava and her brother Henry Lavender. They're both twins, and Henry's a mute child. He's never talked at all, and Ava was born with wings. So there's a lot of magical realism going on with this family. Like, you know, something's like, I wouldn't say weird, but something's very different about them. Overall, I just think it's a book about love and the different kinds of love in the world. So I thought it was really good. I think when I first read it, I wanted to be more wowed by it, but the more the time has gone on, I think the better it gets. So I think Laura will like it. We'll see.
So that is it for the pitch and review for next time and the non-spoilery section for the books that we read last time. So if you don't want to be spoiled, finish watching this video now. If you have read The Game of Love and Death or Dear Daughter, keep watching. Or if you don't care about being spoiled for the endings of those, keep watching. But we're going to talk about these books more in depth right now. So bye, everyone who's leaving.